As the dust settles on the donkeys, Matt Hancock, and ironically Kwasi Kwarteng as well, and others, I think it's worth shifting the focus from the absurdity of the individuals concerned to the general problem. And the general problem occurs regularly, particularly as an administration faces defeat, and its various ministers think, "Oh, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now?" Well, Matt Hancock is obviously very anxious, and it's about anxiety, desperation, and a loss of earnings, a loss of a significant amount of earnings. So MPs earn £84,000 plus a year, and that's been boosted recently at exactly by the MPs themselves at about exactly the same time that MPs also imposed a public sector salary cut on the very people who we were standing outside our front doors clapping during the COVID and saying how much they were saving the country. The only people who seem to be saving the country as far as MPs are concerned are those people sitting on the green benches in the House of Commons. This is shocking. And it's the system. So I know I keep coming on here and harping on the same issue. It's not one side or the other. It's not the Conservatives are bad, the Labour Party is good, or vice versa. It's that there's a disease running through the entire parliamentary system that we've got. And those people who are elected to high office simply are running scared at this time because they don't know whether or not they're going to have a job next year or the year after. And they think they share, and big business also thinks it shares, a common interest. Big business wants to get its hands on the people who know how the system works. And the ex-ministers want to secure some sort of future. So they're all running around trying to grab private sector sinecures, jobs for the boys, where they don't actually have to do very much. They just have to be there. And now from the donkey scandal, we learn they don't even need to be there. They can do it on the end of a Zoom call. It's a huge problem, and under this administration, since the beginning of the century, really, there's been a huge wave, a huge explosion in external income, second income of MPs, and it needs to be addressed not only for the period of time when MPs are in office, but for the period of time, let's say, for 10 years following their deselection, their loss of office. And I think people need to be prepared to take the hit if they're going to stand for high office in our country. They need to be prepared to take the hit, because otherwise we are heading towards the most appalling example of corruption, which will be so visible to the rest of the world. And it's not just the twits in the Conservative Party who are at this, who are like pigs with their noses in the trough. It's not just the Matt Hancocks. Matt Hancock has been caught up in, I count six scandals that could have been avoided. First of all, he was involved in setting up systems that caused avoidable death. Then he broke his own rules, grappling in the stationery cupboard with Gina Coladangelo. Let's make that stationery cupboard move. And then he failed to act as a constituency MP by running off and doing reality TV, not once but twice. Though we haven't seen the second reality TV show that he did, because maybe that show has realised it has no traction. It has no traction. They delayed, thinking they were going to make a real bundle. And of course, that delay, Matt Hancock slips out of any sort of interest at all. People will switch off rather than switch on. Number 4, he made a great fuss about the fact that he was doing the reality TV to raise money for dyslexia, and he gave such a tiny portion of his win to dyslexia. A tiny portion. It's cheap. Number 5, the sting with the journalists. Number 6, giving all his WhatsApp messages to a journalist. It's not that Matt Hancock is fundamentally bad. He's fundamentally stupid, I think. Allegedly. Apparently. He is fundamentally stupid. He is chaotic and accident prone. And I think to focus too much on Matt Hancock, which of course we like doing, to focus too much on Matt Hancock is to ignore that the problem is widespread, not across just the Conservative Party, but across the Labour Party as well, across the whole of Parliament. And we need a parliamentary review of not only second jobs in Parliament, which I'm sure will be the way this goes, because MPs in the Labour Party and in the Conservative Party will know exactly where the worst hit will be. The worst hit for them will be that there is a limit on when they can grab these business jobs, these sinecures and so on. I think that limit should be 10 years. 3 years, no, 10 years. 10 years. 10 years after they lose office. That should be the first time they should be considered for business jobs. Very simple. And in the meantime, that we should have a serious pension scheme for ex-ministers and probably even ex-MPs to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen, because this is how corruption looks. This is corruption.